Hello viewers, and welcome to this presentation on script breakdown and scheduling. I have with me here Professor Prashanjit Ghosh, who is from the Producing for Film and Television Department from Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. We all know what a script is, but many of us are not aware that a script is in fact a technical document. It contains a lot of vital information for the production team to work with, and it contains that in a structured form. In order to have that information easily available to the production team, over the years the film industry has evolved a standard format for a script, and increasingly even in India that is a format that is followed. I have here with me a page from a script written in a standard format. As you can see, each scene is numbered and each scene has certain elements. At the top of each scene is what we call a slug line. The slug line mentions the number of the scene, whether it is an exterior or an interior scene, the location in which the scene is supposed to take place, and whether it is a day or a night scene. Below the slug line, we have the action. Action is whatever activities are performed by any of the characters during the scene. Many scenes have dialogues and they are given in a separate section. The speaker's name is given in the center, and just below him or her you have their lines. Each scene ends with a transition. Scene number 15, for example, ends with a cut, but you could also have other kinds of transitions like a fade out or a dissolve. Why do we need to do a breakdown of a script at all? Why can't we just take a script and go and start shooting with it? Well, the answer to that is that shooting is a very time-consuming and expensive affair, and it is very important to do proper planning in order to ensure that the shooting is completed in the minimum possible time with the least possible expenditure. Also, we have to keep in mind that most films are shot out of sequence, which means scene number 53 could be shot first, and then scene number 3, and then maybe scene number 12. So it is very important to plan the shoot in such a way that there is proper continuity between the scenes, and also that no part of the film is left out. Many commercial films have big actors in them, and some of those actors will give you dates only in certain periods. For example, if you have a film which stars Shah Rukh Khan and Aishwarya Rai, Shah Rukh Khan might give you dates between, say, 1st of March and 30th of April. And perhaps the leading lady Aishwarya Rai gives you dates from 15th of April to 15th of May. Which means you have both Shah Rukh Khan and Aishwarya Rai only between 15th of April and 30th of April. And in these 15 days, you have to shoot all scenes which have both of these actors. So you need to know, for example, what are the scenes which have both of these actors? In these scenes, what other actors are required? Where are these scenes located? Do these scenes have any special requirements like fights, or maybe a playback for a song, or maybe a foreign shoot? Every time the person planning the shoot has to read the entire script to find an answer to a question like this, then the planning for the shoot will become a very time-consuming affair. And also there is a chance that he or she might make a mistake, which could be very, very costly. Imagine using up all of Aishwarya Rai's dates and then discovering that you have not shot 2 of her scenes. You might not get her dates for the next 6 months. In order to ensure error-free and efficient planning, what we do is we extract all the production related information from the script and we put it into one document which is called the script breakdown sheet. This script breakdown sheet is the foundation of production planning because it is essential not only for scheduling, it is also essential for budgeting. I think Professor Ghosh will tell us a little bit about what is a script breakdown sheet and how to go about preparing it.
In production parlance, the elements are those which affects the production logistics when the shooting is on. Because when the shooting is on, you have to have all the things ready, otherwise you lose time. So you have to really take care of all these elements. But what are those elements which you find in a script? You have time, you have location, you have cast, which also include extras, you have special effects, special equipment, costume and wardrobe. And there is also another element which you have to take care of, which is called the production notes.
Professor Ghosh, in a production, generally who is the person who does this process of script breakdown?
See, it is the primary responsibility of the first assistant director because he actually controls the whole floor, because he gives orders for everything which happens during the shoot.
So how would the chief assistant director go about making this script breakdown sheet?
See, the script breakdown has a process. Actually, first you have to start with reading the script thoroughly. And you have to read the script entirely. Because if you don't read the script entirely, a lot of nuances will be lost. So actually, all the elements which I have described before is color coded. And there is a standard format for this color coding. I'll show you that how this coding is done according to the elements. So there is a process for marking these elements. So for instance, for cast, we use color red. And by cast actually we mean any speaking actor. Then you have stunts, which is in color orange. Then extra. Extras also have two different parts. One is the silent bits, where you actually show the person but he has no dialogue. So that part is actually colored by yellow. And you have the extra, which is atmosphere. Means when you in a shoot you see there are crowd involved. So that is indicated by color green. Then you have special effects, for which we use color blue. And for props we use purple. And props doesn't mean all the props which are on the set. It particularly means those props which are being used by the actor. So for instance, if there is a firing, so someone holding a gun will be considered as a prop. Then you have vehicles or animals. So if in a scene there is a vehicle involved, it is colored by pink color. Then you have sound effects or music. So in case of sound effects, we do not mean whatever sound is produced while the shoot is on, but those sounds which actually need to be played back. So for instance, if we have a playback, that is also needs to be prepared, and that has to be colored by brown. Then we have wardrobe, which is generally indicated by a circle. Then you have makeup. Here also not all makeup is necessary. If there is any special kind of makeup, then you have to underline that, which is actually indicated by asterisks. And then comes a special equipment. Because in a shoot you need to use not only the normal equipments like camera or track trolley, but sometimes you also need to use Jimmy Jib, rain machine, or sometimes for underwater photography you need the casing for the camera. Then comes the very important element, which is called the production note. Production note is generally underlined in a script. It actually indicates if there is any confusion, the assistant director indicates that in that production note box. And it is generally underlined in a script.
Can you give us an example of a script which has been color coded like this?
Yeah, I'll show you a color coded script by which you will be able to understand all the elements and the coding I was talking about. I'll show you. So in this page you can make out that all the elements are actually color coded. So if you look, there is a character which is called Watchman, which is actually part of the silent bit. So it is coded accordingly. Then you come to a picture vehicle, which is a BMW. It is there. Then if you look at the main characters, which is Sanjay and Kalpana, that is also color coded according to the norm which I have told you. So this is how one has to do the color coding. The general procedure is to use a sketch pen, but sometimes you can use some other methods also, and by marking these elements you actually use them for later use.
So the advantage of having a color coded script is that you can get all the production related information without having to read the entire document. So which means, suppose you need to know which are the scenes where you need a crowd, then you won't have to go through the entire script. You just see which are the portions which are marked green, and you immediately know that this is where you need to arrange a crowd, and you can act immediately. So basically this is a device of extracting production-related information quickly from a script. Am I correct?
Yeah, actually the basic purpose of script breakdown is you are concising all the information, because for a production person it doesn't make sense to carry that fat piece of paper because they cannot have so much time to go through the script.
That is.
So basically you are taking out all the important informations which will be required for the particular scene.
I believe the next step is to further extract this information and have it in a more concise form in what is called a script breakdown sheet. Can you tell us a little bit about what a script breakdown sheet looks like?
Yeah, as I said, there are 3 steps. The first one is to read the script and read the script entirely.
Right.
The next step is actually color coding. So you are taking out all the elements which are necessary for your shoot. The third step is putting all this information, rather transferring all this information to a sheet of paper which has all the elements which I have described before in a formalized manner.
Right.
So if you look at a script breakdown sheet, so it has a heading which is basically the title of the film, the company which is producing the film, and there will be certain information in terms of, say, what is the number of that breakdown page and the scene number. Incidentally, the scene number and the breakdown page number has to coincide. It has to be the same.
Okay.
So apart from that, you have all these elements like location, you have the time of that scene, you have the interior exterior, which is in the top portion of that script breakdown sheet. And then comes all the elements which I have already described. So as I said, that the top portion basically have informations about the title of the film, about the producing company, and also the number, the scene number and the breakdown page number. But after that, all the boxes which you can see contains all the elements. So once you have marked all those elements, now you know how to transfer these elements to the particular box. So this is the process of filling up the breakdown sheet.
So basically, once you have this breakdown sheet, the script itself becomes almost redundant for the production team. This is the document that they are now following to plan their production.
Yes, this is actually called part of the production Bible.
Okay.
Because there are other sheets which will be carried by the production person, but this is the most important sheet which he has to refer to all the time.
Before we go on further into this process of breaking down a script, we have to consider a concept called a page count. Now, what is a page count? Scripts are usually printed on A4 size paper, and these sheets are further divided into 8 sections, and they're numbered from 1 to 8. So if a particular scene begins on section 4 of page 18 and ends on section 2 of page 19, that means it has covered 5 sections in one page and 2 sections in the other page, so that's a total of 7 sections. So it would have a page count of 7 by 8. Now, why is it important to have a page count for a script? Well, one page of a dialogue script generally corresponds to about 1 minute of screen time. So doing a page count helps to keep track on how much of screen time has been shot during a particular day. This is important because production companies generally aim to shoot a particular number of minutes of screen time each day, and doing a precise page count helps them to make sure that they are on schedule. So now that we have a script breakdown sheet and we have a script with page count, what is the next step? How do we go towards making an actual schedule?
See, after this script breakdown is done, now you have to further concise your information into a strip board. Generally what is being done is you have a color-coded strip which contains all the important elements in that strip. So all this strip has different colors. So if you look at left hand corner of any breakdown sheet, you will find the color coding. A day exterior will be having a yellow strip. Likewise, night exterior will be green. Again, day interior will be a white strip and night interior will be blue. So apart from this color coding, there are certain information in that strip. For instance, the scene number, the cast, the location, and also the page count and estimated time for shooting that particular scene.
As you can see, a scene strip looks like this, and as Professor Ghosh has just pointed out, it contains only the information that is required in order to do a scheduling, which means it contains the scene number, whether it's interior or exterior, the actual location in which the scene is supposed to be shot, whether it's day or night, the page number and the page count, and the date in which it is supposed to be shot. It also sometimes contains a very short one-line description of the action of that scene. Once we have made scene strips like this for each individual scene, they are now grouped according to certain principles in order to create the actual schedule. Now we'll go into some of these principles that are used to make the schedule. Now what are these parameters or principles that you have to keep in mind when you're making a schedule from these scene strips? Well, by far the most important is what we would call fixed dates. As we've already discussed earlier, if you're working with stars or even with non-celebrity actors, they often have constraints regarding what time they can shoot. So they will give you some certain dates only when they can work with you. And even though you might want to have a completely flexible schedule, you will have to respect their constraints and you have to schedule accordingly. Also, it is possible that if you want to shoot in a particular location, that location may be available only at certain times, and you will also have to therefore make sure that you only shoot on days when you have those actors available as well as that particular location available. So that again creates a constraint for the making of your schedule. The next important element to keep in mind is, of course, the location itself.
Yes. Ideally speaking, if that constraint of fixed date is not there, you should actually ideally schedule your film according to the locations. Because if you concentrate on location, then you are saved for all the trouble of going to that location again and again.
Right.
So accordingly, when you are scheduling, you first keep in mind that all the locations to be grouped together. The primary purpose of putting all location together is you are saving on your time and money. So if you are shooting a scene in Switzerland, it doesn't make sense to come back to India and then again go back to Switzerland to shoot that same scene on that location. And there are some certain other things which you have to keep in mind. For scheduling, after this fixed dates and location, cast is a very important element which has to be taken care of. Because you have a lot of actors and some of them are big stars and some of them are playing small roles, but it is always better to schedule your actors on the same scenes together, because that also saves their time of usage. Because if you have an actor, it doesn't make sense to use them on one day and then again call him for 3-4 days later on. So it is always better to group together the same cast with the same scene. Apart from this, you have certain things which you have to keep in mind when you're scheduling. For instance, there is a shift time involved. Shift time is a very important element when you're scheduling. Shift time generally means the time when the crew and the actors are working. General principle is that you have to finish a day's shoot within 12 hours. Because going beyond 12 hours actually exhausts them and you don't get good results. But in certain cases, 8 hours is considered as one shift. And once you cross that 8 hours limit, your payment or the crew's payment actually doubles up. So apart from shift time, you also have to keep in mind turnaround time. A turnaround time actually means that in a day's shoot, after it is completed, and the gap when you are calling them next day has to have a sufficient time. So that is called turnaround time. And generally, it has to be within limit of 10 to 12 hours. So once you wrap up your shoot, you have to give a gap of 10 to 12 hours to start the next day's shoot.
So once the scene strips have been grouped keeping these principles in mind, a final strip board would look something like this. As you can see here, the scenes have been grouped according to the principles. For example, all the scenes which have night exterior are marked blue and they've been kept together. Obviously, that is because the logistics involved in shooting night exterior scenes are similar, so it makes sense to have all of them shot in one go. Similarly, scenes which are shot in interior locations during the day have been grouped together. But as you can see, it's not as if all of them have been grouped together. They have also been separated by a few days in between. That is because of the other constraints that come into play. For example, actors' availability, the individual locations may be different. So perhaps you have one set of scenes which have to be shot in somebody's bedroom, which have been grouped together, and another set of scenes which need to be shot inside a college, which has been put in another group. So when you have all these scenes grouped like this on a board, now it is a relatively simple method of picking out each group to be shot in a particular day. A final schedule looks something like this. As you can see, it mentions the location at which a scene has to be shot. It mentions the day of the shoot. It mentions the beginning and the ending time, or at least the estimated ending time of each day's shoot. Within each day's schedule, you have a mention of the sheet number, the scene number, whether it's interior or exterior, day or night, a very small concise description of the scene itself, and whatever is the estimated time it should take to shoot that scene. You have to make provision not only for the shooting time, also for breaks like lunch break or dinner break, as well as if the company has to move from one location to another location during a particular day, you have to make enough provision for the moving as well as for setting up the next shoot.
So till now we have described the whole process of script breakdown, which starts from reading the script, then marking all those elements in color coding, and then transferring all these elements to a script breakdown sheet. So all this process previously used to be done physically or manually. So you have to have piece of paper, you have to have a pen, you have to have the strip boards, and all this used to be very cumbersome, though there was no other option left. But now, with the advent of technology, everything can be done in a software or with the help of softwares. So these are the softwares which will follow the same process, the same technique, but it will be much more user-friendly. There are several softwares we nowadays use for production. One is Movie Magic, another is Gorilla, and for script writing we have Final Draft. And these three are actually can be interlinked. So all the information in a script can easily be transferred into your breakdown sheet and then to the colored strip. So this is a process nowadays everyone is following.